What you're about to hear is part 2 of a multi-part series on no-holds-barred fighting in America. I'm your host, Patrick Euclid. Previously, on the cage of history. There are black belts, and then there are black belts. Hoyce, for instance, is a black belt. His brother Hickson, for instance, is a black belt. Welcome.
Do you want to talk about physical strength?
To the cage.
Do you want to talk about sheer muscle?
Of history.
Do you want to talk about the Olympian ideal? You are a god!
Episode.
And listen to me.
2.
You are not evil.
Growing pains.
You are good! According
to Art Davie, the night after the first UFC tournament, they had hosted a cocktail party to commemorate the event. Actually, according to some versions he's told, it was a masked ball, which is almost undoubtedly entirely embellishment. I guess it did take place in a ballroom. Well, the after party did. The first after party, technically. Actually, it doesn't matter. You know what, fuck it, let's just go with Art Davie's version, since he was actually there. It was a masquerade ball, the peak of elegance, and all of the fighters attended, including Zane Frazier, who had been admitted to the hospital after suffering not 1, but 2 asthma attacks, and everyone was dressed to the nines, tuxedos instead of Speedos, except for Taylor Tooley, who wore a sarong with a bow tie, missing 4 teeth but still all smiles. Dirty Gerard Gordeau must have been there as well, waltzing with the 2 of those teeth still stuck between skin and shoe. And those teeth, they wouldn't come out until he'd flown back to Holland or wherever the fuck he was from. And Art Davie, despite a face full of scotch and cigar smoke, could discern across the dance floor that everyone was happy, knowing that they had just taken part in something historic. Except for 3 men. Pat Smith, who wanted to fight Ken Shamrock again. Ken Shamrock, who wanted to fight Hoyce Gracie again. And Hoyce's trainer Hickson, who just wanted to fight again, period. It had been almost a decade since his last appearance in the ring, but by all accounts he was still a goddamn phenom. He had been Art's primary pick and presumptive representative of the family, until that notion had been vetoed by Rorion in favor of the far less physically imposing and youngest brother Hoyce. To hear nearly anyone in the jiu-jitsu community praise Hickson is like listening to the sounds of a sloppy blowjob. It's obnoxiously obsequious, sickeningly sycophantic fanboy flattery, and by all accounts, it's all true. In the words of Joe Rogan. When Hoyce was beating everyone in UFC 1, he was like, "You should see my brother Hickson. My brother Hickson kills me. The moment somebody beats me, you're in trouble, because then my brother Hickson is going to join." Crone Gracie. Because my dad was the best, you know. My dad would tap at Hoyce with one hand at his belt before his fight, so. Chemo. You know, they used to say Hickson was so good, he could beat Hoyce with his arms tied behind his back. Chuck Norris. I met Hickson Gracie, who was a world champion at that time, and Hoyce Gracie. And so I asked him if I could work out with them, and they said, very cordial. They said, of course. And I was a black belt in judo, so I thought I had some pretty good grappling skills. Anyway, I got on the ground with Hickson Gracie, and it's like I never had a lesson in my life. He played with me. Jean-Jacques Machado. I remember he used to visit our school some nights and train with the whole school. He just lined up 30, 40 guys and go through everybody. You see, Hickson then was Michael Jordan. And he was the main guy in the family because every time they had a challenge, he was the one to step up. I have over 460 fights, and I'm still undefeated. And a little audio autofellatio for the finale. Over 460 fights and I still undefeated? Are you fucking kidding me? Hickson Gracie's official professional record shows him as 11-0. And at the place and time we're at presently, he had only 2 pro fights, both against the same gorilla of a man, a famous black Brazilian street fighter known only as Zulu. And all racism aside, he really was like a gorilla. Great ape tough, unafraid to attack with reckless abandon, and with the kind of strength that can snap bones like shoots of bamboo. Rickson had choked him out twice, proving to everyone in his homeland that he was the greatest fighter in the world. But 460 fights. Nobody has a clue where this figure comes from. What must he have been counting as fights? Did the soccer team try to jump him a few times in high school? Some tough guys fucking up his sweet surfing spot? We know from history that dojo stormings and challenge matches between rival schools really were a thing, just like in the movies. But how many dojo stormings does it take for these dumb motherfuckers to get the gist? Rickson Gracie is the main character of this kung fu flick, and he walked into the WoW office with demands. In fact, he asked for $1 million. Let me set the scene. Elio Gracie's firstborn son, the apple of his eye, holding half the stake in the promotion company that had exposed his jiu-jitsu system to over 250,000 people at this point, and honored him as the first Ultimate Fighter, the gatekeeper of all things Gracie, was sitting at the table, negotiating with the unquestioned family champion, and all he'd coldly said was, "We'd like you to fight for us. Art will go over the particulars." And after Art began his pitch, Rickson had heard something and it hadn't set well. He interjected immediately. If Mike Tyson gets $10 million a fight, 10% for triple the work isn't unreasonable. He said, "You and Rorion are dividing millions." And in Art Davies' own words, from an interview with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt Eddie Bravo, quote, he said $1 million. And Elio was sitting over on the couch with Royce. Rorion and he went back and forth, and Rickson didn't say much. And finally the old man speaks, and he says that, "We did only fight for honor. That's all I was about in my youth in Brazil, Vale Tudo. And that's what Vale Tudo really is. And if Rickson really values one thing, a term to wear on his shoulder like a badge, even more than honor, it is Vale Tudo." Rickson didn't say a word. He basically nodded to me, didn't look at Rorion, sort of did a slight bow to the old man and hoist and left. And that was the end of the discussion. We were never able to hire Rickson Gracie. End quote. Now, the land of Japan already had some experience with the Gracie family, but it hadn't been anything terribly impressive. It hadn't been like Minoki Ichihara losing to Hoist in the prelims. But any seemingly insurmountable challenge can capture the Japanese attention and hone it to the point of obsession. See Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. See also Mount Midoriyama. See also Zen Buddhist Nirvana. So, when they saw the man who so easily defeated Ichihara confess that his older brother could defeat him in his sleep, they decided to jump the shark and go straight for the killer whale. They'd been holding professional Shuto events for about 5 years in Japan. A Frankenstein's monster of mixed martial arts, with a rule set that included 10-count KOs and no strikes on the mat. It included gloves. It included rounds, and in many ways was the most sophisticated form of fight sport yet available. They courted Rickson Gracie with an event that they carefully sculpted to sway him over, by honor, and by hard cash. And a yearly Shuto tournament was born. Vale Tudo Japan. Meanwhile, in the War of the World's production offices, Art Davie is sifting through the application stacks with a fine-tooth comb, while Rorion Gracie hears the petitions of veteran referee Big John McCarthy. There had been 2 fights in the UFC's second event that haunted Big John. The ninja, Scott Morris, who'd suffered a terrible beating by the hands and elbows of Pat Smith, and his cornermen could not even be trusted to rescue their fighter. And then an alternate named Fred Ettish had finally been choked after suffering such a thrashing that it would eventually go on to occupy darkly comedic memes made by those only cursorily accustomed to the concept of concussions. Big John wanted some authority in the cage. He wanted the ability to insert his own discretion on the fighter's safety. He wanted the power to stop the fight, or he could not reasonably place himself again in a position ostensibly occupied by the man who traditionally was responsible for that very thing. The way we understand it, anyway. And Rorion's brilliant solution was to place Big John in a lifeguard's chair, above the action, presiding like Caesar, with a red towel that he could toss into the melee, which would presumably just stop, like magic, with the frenzied competitors cognizant of his little flag and perfectly willing to comply. You fucking kidding me? And we thought of a moat with alligators around, or sharks. We thought of all kinds of an electric fence. Ah, yes, that's right. Let's not forget who we are dealing with here. The promotional poster for UFC 2 had included a very Rorion phrase intended to increase the intensity of the endeavor, an attempt to explain the bizarre cage that the entire event centered around. No way out. For the third event, with respect to Hickson's departure for Japan, and the first marquee fight they were building toward, it was entitled UFC 3, The American Dream. The poster featuring Hoist and Ken Shamrock squaring off against each other, still with the pseudo-truth that there are no rules, and the this style versus that style banner to underscore it all. It was September 9th, 1994. Charlotte, North Carolina. The Grady Cole Center, which seated 3,000, but according to Big John they'd packed about 5,000 people inside, and it was upwards of 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the building. Ain't nobody got time for that. In the stacks of applications, Art Davie had come across another sumo competitor, even larger than the last, promoted to us as the biggest athlete in combat sports, E Honda Turbo. His name was Emmanuel Yarborough, and he drew the first match, as per tradition with a sumo, against a man who was absolutely elated to be his opponent, Keith Hackney, an American Kempo fighter who had come to test himself in the octagon, trademark.
Emmanuel
He apparently
Yarborough,
wanted the largest test.
calmly chewing on some invisible cud, as mound of flesh.
Before the fight even begins, as soon as Yarborough
like
steps onto the cage platform, his lack of mobility is apparent.
It gives a wave.
Hackney, by contrast, might as well be Muhammad Ali.
John McCarthy, ready to
And his
run
strange
this
Kempo
motherfucker.
footwork
Let's
is
get
not
it
exactly
on.
something I would consider
Keith Hackney
stellar.
with the sidekick, keeping the distance intelligently.
We witness this fact as Hackney closes the gap suddenly, landing a tremendous tiger claw-like
Hackney
open-hand
smacked the
bitch
shit out
slap,
of the sumo.
but fails to
he's-
dart back out of range before Yarborough can grab a hold of him and, anything. Sit on him, collapse atop the
He's got
man
a
and take a
single-
nap.
Oh,
E
Yarborough
Honda Turbo
clubbing
decides
away
instead
at
to beat
back.
the head and neck of the
Hackney
little
trying
man
to
as he
stand,
escapes,
The right cross.
eating punches while Hackney desperately
Making
works for
some
distance.
now.
It's here that the discrepancy in power becomes
Sort of a
very
thumb choke.
apparent.
Oh, Yarborough threw him through the cage. The
Yarborough
mountain
sends Hackney
threw
flying
the
against the
man
fence,
through the fucking cage.
straight through the cage door, which is supposed to be
He
bolted
trots
closed.
back in
It's the sumo's most meaningful
to
attack
his
yet,
corner
and it will ironically cost him his only
with a look
chance
of
at
fury
victory.
on his face. He is
As
ready
Hackney
to
is
fight.
let back into the octagon, trademark,
His stance is bizarre.
and the fight gets restarted at full distance,
Keeping his distance, Yarborough stalking calmly.
which Hackney keeps with basic
The big
movement.
sumo guard up. Oh, he eats another fist. An open hand slap.
Side kicks to the groin,
Side kick.
and the occasional overhand open hand,
Yarborough appears tired already.
which lands safely.
Chewing. He's chewing gum. He gets kicked in the groin. Lunges in, but Hackney escapes easily. Circles around to the center, another side
Until
kick.
his side kick is caught,
He's grabbed his leg now for a single.
and he throws
Hackney
several
with some
uppercuts, which
uppercuts.
fell the big man,
He's on the ground. Hackney is just punching away, clubbing
followed up by a plethora of right hands,
to flatten out Yarborough, who's attempting to stand.
almost all of which are ill-advised.
Yarborough with the hand in the way. ineffectual fingers to protect the
from
punches
various angles,
to the back of the
with
spine.
absolutely no regard for the integrity of his
Oh
little
my
metacarpal
goodness.
bones. Come on,
Hackney
Keith Hackney.
is just
Can I get a
clubbing and
kick, a
smashing
knee,
away with
a
his
chokehold,
hands
anything?
in various
No?
positions, and the referee, Big John McCarthy, steps in to stop the action and check on the big sumo.
Are you fucking kidding me? Probably gonna need an alternate then, right?
It was just about 50 right hands. There's about 50 right hands to the face.
It was 40. At least I counted 40. 40 unanswered blows to the head while Yarborough was in some form of a down position. So, Big John McCarthy has the authority to stop the fight, just not always the inclination. Oh, did I forget to mention? He did not go for the red towel idea.
Alright, here we go. In the opening round, Ken Shamrock, the shoot fighter in the red Speedos, versus Christoph Lininger, the judoka sporting a blue gi.
Shamrock is back, we are told, by popular demand.
Shoot fighter versus judoka. Who will get the submission hold?
A dubious claim that would have rang truer in Japan.
Who will initiate the clinch? Who will succeed in the throw?
Where he had fought 6 times since his UFC 1 appearance.
Lininger pawing at Shamrock, who's feinting with a right cross. They're feeling each other out now. Shamrock feints again. Lininger does not react. Lininger feints twice, and a kick feint.
But he comes out now with far more composure than last time.
He's getting froggy. Shamrock nearly connects with the right cross. Lininger comes in, but Shamrock throws him to the mat. Lininger attempting to gain guard here. He's got full guard. Shamrock in the full guard of Lininger.
Whereas before the man in the red Speedo was a flurry of fury, he now seemed more veteran.
Lininger able to control Shamrock's posture as he punches to the body. He's got a grip of Lininger's gi. Lininger punching to the head. Lininger punching to the neck of Shamrock. Shamrock is still crouched in the guard of the judoka,
Calm.
trying to formulate a strategy here. He's posturing now. He's got the judoka stacked. Shamrock attempting to punch.
His efforts
Lininger attempting to break
more
this elevation.
workmanlike,
They're both being very patient
methodical,
in the closed guard of Christoph Lininger.
dispassionate even.
Shamrock stalling. Headbutts exchanged.
To be honest,
But he breaks the space and attempts to punch.
Shamrock's performance bordered on the edge of boring.
Lininger looking to control the posture.
Thankfully,
Oh, Shamrock hits him with a solid right hand to the body here.
the transitions in grappling position were not too quick to catch and fast forward.
Christoph Lininger looking to get the high guard and trap one of Shamrock's arms, but he's having none of it.
Shamrock with firm grips on Lininger's gi. The judoka attempting to punch now, but it's just to the back, to the cranium. No damage done. He attempts an armbar. He doesn't have it. Shamrock escapes. Oh, Shamrock takes his back in the scramble. Shamrock has his back now against the fence. In the back right here. What's he gonna do? He's not going for the choke right away. Just attempting to control the posture of the judo black belt. Oh, elbows to the spine from Shamrock. Lininger's attempting to turn out. Shamrock being sneaky, trying to get the forearm through. Lininger attempts to turn out here. Shamrock in his half guard throwing punches. Punches to the judo black belt's dome against the fence. Lininger attempts to escape, but he's been pinned here. Going for the leg, but he can't get it. Ken Shamrock is controlling his body and pinned his head against the cage now. And he's punching again. Landing some good right hands. Right hands to the body, right hands to the head. Lininger attempting to escape. Oh, with a kick to the face. with the shoot fighter still on top, still punching.
Linenger taps the mat. And Big John McCarthy stops the fight. It's Shamrock by submission. Technical submission. And there, in the Lion's Den corner, is Jason DeLucia to congratulate him. And here we have the official announcement. The referee's calling over the doctor now. Shamrock. Ken Shamrock advances to the semi-final round.
The third match in the opening round featured a Charlotte native.
Alright, it's
Roland Payne,
the Madman,
a Muay Thai kickboxer whom we are told enjoys being punched,
who stands about a head shorter than his competition,
against a crazed Canadian,
the Lumberjack, Double H,
Harold Howard,
the Canadian karate champ,
who it appeared from his promo enjoyed punching things.
And the cage door closes as we are ready to start the action. Oh, a jab from Harold Howard, a low kick from the Muay Thai man. He shoots. There's a mad scramble. Somehow the giant has ended up on his back.
It's a match made in action fight heavy.
Roland Payne with side control, going for a key lock. He lets it go. Oh, a reversal. Harold Howard punching the back of the neck. Elbows to the back. And he drops him back for a DDT. It's mayhem. Oh, a kick. Another kick to the body from Harold Howard. But it's countered with a left cross. A right cross from the Canadian karate champion. Running cross. He hits him with a hammer fist as he goes down, clubbing him in the head. And Big John McCarthy stops the action. It's a TKO victory for Harold Howard, the Canadian karate champ.
Finally, it was time for Hoyce, who came to the octagon, trademark, the same way he had 7 times before, with every Gracie in the building. His opponent, a Hawaiian man known only by one name, after the tradition of Cher and Madonna, came to the cage carrying his literal cross. It was not a plastic prop. It was upwards of 100 pounds, and enormous. It drug on the ground behind him, the crossbar so long that audience members had to duck in their seats. It had been smuggled in as training equipment, in duffel bags sewn end to end. The crossback was painted with colorful letters, an encouragement that Jesus loves you, and an admonishment to repent. The man, who was not intending to tell us that he was about to be crucified, was known only as Chemo. He had long hair braided into a high ponytail. He had the word Jesus tattooed across his stomach in a bamboo font. And I don't need to tell you that he looked ridiculous, but I do feel compelled to convey that he was equal parts intimidating. Kind of like being taunted by Tyson in a clown wig. And when Chemo entered the cage, he immediately dropped down and began to pray with his face on the floor and his ass in the air. His short, shirtless Korean cornerman, meanwhile yelling obscenities through the chain link at Hoyce, who just stared back blankly, looking as though he'd already been in a fight backstage. And as they'd say in Fight Club, after fighting, everything else gets the volume turned down.
Yelling obscenities,
including, perhaps, helpful instructions from your own corner.
And the action begins. Chemo comes out charging with a low stance and attempts to uppercut. Hoyce has the clinch.
Gracie crashes into the clinch.
He's pushed him against the cage, but Chemo's created space
and forces the fight to the fence.
The cage door has come open again, for the second time of the evening,
attempting to outmuscle a man with a good 30-pound advantage.
We restart the action. Hoyce has Chemo pinned against the cage now. With double underhooks, he's really looking to take this takedown. He's kneeing him in the balls. He's kneeing the man in the testicles. He attempts to reap the leg, but no luck. Another knee. Another knee to the Hawaiian's balls.
And Hoyce opts to overcome this deficit with sheer savagery.
Oh, there's a scramble here. Some bad camera work. Oh, another knee to the testicles.
He relentlessly racks Chemo.
And Chemo returns fire.
He headbutts.
Hoist is really trying for this takedown. He headbutts Chemo. Another knee to the balls. He tries to reap. Again, no success. Chemo defending with double overhooks.
Honestly, Hoist tries too hard to force the takedown.
Knee from Hoist again to the kidney. Oh, he gets him down. But Chemo has scrambled and taken Hoist's back. He's taken Hoist's back and flattened him out. With both hooks in.
Giving up dangerous positions.
Hoist is turning over now. Chemo staying on his back. This is unbelievable. Chemo is on top position still. Hoist has almost escaped out the back door. He's controlling one wrist.
Until he can regain guard.
Oh, Hoist is mounted. Chemo's reversed. Chemo in Hoist's guard now. Chemo's posturing up. Hoist is going for the armbar. But he doesn't have it. Chemo again takes the back. Hoist turns out. Chemo in his half guard.
Controlling Chemo's posture with hair pulling.
Hoist getting full guard back now. And controlling the posture by Chemo's ponytail. He's got a tight grip on it. Going for the triangle. He has a leg over now. But Chemo postures out.
He holds the braid with one hand.
Oh, a kick by Hoist's heel. Still controlling the posture of Chemo, the big man, by his ponytail, and now punching the face and eye.
And knuckles open a cut in Chemo's eye with the other.
Chemo. Hoist giving him a frog to the eyeball. Chemo still postured up. Still getting punched relentlessly. Oh, his hair has come out. Hoist has jerked his ponytail off. Oh, and a big punch from Chemo before they scramble. Chemo has the back again. Chemo has the back and they're standing. Hoist is trying to make himself heavy here. They fall against the cage. Into Hoist's guard again. Hoist is going for the arm. Chemo's not defending well. He's got him stacked up. But Hoist has got the arm trap. Now he's cranking, belly down. Big John is stopping the action. And Chemo is not protesting. I didn't see a tap, but he must have submitted verbally.
Chemo did tap. With just the tips of his fingers.
He seems to have accepted his defeat here.
As though caressing a kitten. That is how little energy he had left in him.
Ooh. Some words exchanged. Even the old man getting involved. A beaten and out of breath Chemo stands huffing and puffing in the center of the octagon. Trademark. Hoist is exhausted. But he advances to the next round.
In my memory, it took 3 Gracies to help Hoist hobble his way backstage. Chemo had gotten there faster, not that it mattered since he'd been defeated. And Hoist advanced to the semifinals. And he had a whole fight to rest through before he'd come back out. Unsurprisingly, Keith Hackney has shattered his hand and must bow out against Ken Shamrock. And he's replaced by an alternate who did not have to fight to earn his place in the semifinals. He was fresh. His name was Felix Mitchell, and he was almost the first fighter to wear a complete set of gloves. Looking at you, Art Jimerson. But he does so only until he's about to face off against Shamrock, who has inexplicably replaced his fight shorts. They're now yellow.
And Big John McCarthy says, let's get it on. Felix Mitchell stalking with his hands out like a zombie Muay Thai kickboxer. Shamrock shoots.
The majority of the fight takes place in the clinch.
It's defended in the upper body lock, and he pushes him around, pushes him against the fence.
Against the chain link.
Mitchell has a grip on the fence now to prevent the takedown, and they're scrambling.
It is mostly wrestling.
Shamrock has the underhooks, pushes him back against the cage wall. Felix Mitchell with both hands gripping the chain links. Shamrock trying to relax.
Wrist control and head position. Shit like that.
Pulling him away. Shamrock has pulled him away. Now, reversal of fortune. Felix Mitchell has Shamrock against the fence, but it's not quite where he wants to be. Shamrock slips out, takes his back.
It's a lot of movement without much progress.
Shamrock is going for a standing rear naked choke with one hook, but of course Mitchell will just easily defend this by turning in. Oh, an elbow to the groin from Mitchell. Oh, another one.
A lot of strength expend. Not a lot of results.
Shamrock with wrist control, attempting to peel away the guard of Felix Mitchell.
Whole lot of nothing.
He's pushing his mouthpiece out now and saying something to the ref.
If Shamrock is back by popular demand,
they're hand fighting here for a long time.
It is not due to his concern about applying a set of stellar performances.
Here against the fence, 2 minutes in. Now Mitchell has the underhooks. Shamrock with one overhook going for a knee. Mitchell trying to take down. Shamrock maintains his balance. Double underhooks and pinning Shamrock against the cage as Mitchell Bay's worn out. Shamrock has reversed the position. Shamrock with a knee. Felix Mitchell punching to the hip, punching to the kidney. Shamrock over the top. Now they're saying something to each other, talking shit, and attempting to exchange some body punches here in the standing clinch of what has so far become a boring fight. Felix Mitchell punching the thigh, punching the butt cheeks of Ken Shamrock. Felix Mitchell with a wedgie, still grabbing the fence. Shamrock exchanges the wedgie, trying to lift up the other man. Now they're walking away from the cage, each attempting to get the throw and achieve some kind of dominant position. Again, Mitchell with a punch to the thigh. Shamrock not reacting. Stalled on the fence again. Oh, Shamrock has him. Reaps out the leg and lands in half guard. He easily, effortlessly passes the mount and begins to punch. Felix Mitchell turns his back. Shamrock adjusts the hooks, goes for the choke.
Oh, he's got it. Mitchell is tapping. Mitchell's tapping out. Ken Shamrock by some chokehold. And boy, does he look exhausted. He's limping. He's limping away to the center. Something's wrong. Something may be wrong with Ken's right leg here. His corner's attending him. All three of his cornermen.
And now it's time again for the champion, Hoist Gracie.
Alright, and here we have Harold Howard versus Hoist Gracie. The Canadian is telling us he's looking forward to bringing the karate aspect back into jiu-jitsu. Presumably he means he's looking forward to grounding and pounding Hoist Gracie. Hoist coming out with the Gracie train.
In the words of Big John McCarthy,
Looking exhausted still.
from an interview with Eddie Bravo. You must have been freaking out when Hoist came out all fucked up in UFC 3 after chemo, and then when Harold Howard walks out.
There's a 50-pound
Did you
weight
know they were
discrepancy
going to
here.
throw in the towel? I told them to. That was me. They were going to let him fight? You know what? Yeah. They were going to let him fight. It was. But, you know, Hoist had his match with Chemo. Chemo's a big, strong guy. He put a lot of energy out in trying to control what Chemo was trying to do and stuff. And, you know, when he went back into the back, he was dehydrated. He hadn't, you know, he was having problems. They put him into a shower and stuff. And, you know, I saw exactly the condition he was in. I knew he was screwed. I think Rich Goins was the announcer at the time, and he starts, you know, introducing the fighters. He's introducing Harold Howard, and I go and I talk to Hoist, and I look at him. I said, Hoist, look at me. And he can't. And I said, Hoist. He says, I can't. He says, all I see is white. He goes, I can't see you. So I went over and I called Rorion up and I said, hey, your brother can't see.
Hoist Gracie.
You can't have him fight.
Being announced now.
And about this time, they're announcing Hoist Gracie and stuff. And he goes, oh no, he'll be fine. I said, he's not going to be fine. You can't have him fight.
Rorion has motioned
and he goes,
over.
well, let me go talk to him.
The referee, Big John McCarthy.
Talking to him on the side with, the brothers there. And it gets to the point where I'm supposed to have to start the fight. And he says,
they're opening the cage now.
We'll get an alternate. I said, you can't do that now.
What's going on here? Hoist is not looking good.
I said, he's already been announced. Throw the towel in.
And they've thrown the towel in. The Gracie camp has thrown the towel, and Hoist is walking out of the octagon. Trademark. Backstage.
Chemo and his Korean cornerman return to the cage to claim the victory. And after a surprising amount of adulation, slink back to the locker room.
Harold Howard looking very upset, or very excited, but still respectful as he bows to the octagon, trademark, as he exits. He was looking forward to the match, and now there is no match.
And for the final, Ken Shamrock fails to come out against Harold Howard, certainly due in part to his injuries, but also almost certainly because Hoist had quit. So, Ken is replaced with a fresh alternate who hadn't fought at all, and now found himself in the finals, looking like he could be Val Kilmer's retarded younger brother, a police officer and professed practitioner of ninjutsu, which had not been a good look here thus far. His name was Steve Jenham, and he was certainly expected to be flattened by the already proven and enormous Harold Howard.
The lumberjack Canadian. The heavyweight bruiser. I think we may know how this story ends.
Who came out like a killer clown.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Well, let's get it on, motherfucker. Harold Howard comes out aggressive, but goofy. He throws a somersault kick. He's looking to attack. Oh, an uppercut lands for him, right uppercut. Steve Jenham still looking for the clinch. He goes for the guillotine choke.
And Steve Jenham
has pushed him up against the cage. He's still looking to crank on that neck.
He gave zero fucks.
As they hit the mat, Jenham jumps to the side to defend.
He was neither impressed nor intimidated.
Presses on the carotid arteries of Harold Howard to begin to free his neck.
Out-grappling and out-striking the big man.
There is no choke here. In the half guard of Harold Howard, Steve Jenham creeping around, freeing the leg. He's passed effortlessly now. Oh, he got swept. It was a trap. And as they scramble, they exchange punches. Harold Howard is stunned. Harold Howard leaping forward and lunging, leaning with a nothing punch, which is easily ducked and avoided. Jenham clinches, trips him to the mat, takes the mount effortlessly, and begins to rain down bones. Punches, punches, and punches. He's blasting. Oh, Harold Howard submits. Harold Howard bitches out. And Steve Jenham, the alternate nobody's ever fucking heard of, is the tournament champion.
So, there was a lesson somewhere in all that chaos about tournament alternates, and Art Davie decided to double down on the amount for the next show, and then make them fight each other. So, your tournament winner would have to go through at least 2 dudes to grab the gold. And now that a non-Gracie had done so, the family circle closed so tightly around Hoist that Art couldn't catch a glimpse of what was going on. They had shut him out. His business partner had excluded him, out of hand, in all matters of the family. He had chosen Hoist over Hickson without explanation, for instance. And now, he'd kept secret the status of the promotion's premier star. But despite the disruptive disaster with the alternate champion, Hoist's precarious position was actually product in demand. His struggle with Chemo was the most popular fight on the card of UFC 3. So Art wanted to acquire more talent that would actually give Hoyce a hard time. He'd seen an old tape of Hickson rolling with Mark Schultz, gold medalist freestyle wrestling champion and younger brother of Dave Schultz, also a gold medalist in those same Olympic Games. And Hickson had struggled, influencing Art Davie to go after world-class wrestlers, particularly Alexander Karelin, the Russian experiment, which proved impossible given his amount of time and resources. And of course he'd had to cater to some of Campbell McLaren's sense of spectacle and absurdity in the meantime. And while I'd love to give you the quote straight from Mr. McLaren, it's nigh on impossible due to the wacky nature of the tale, the teller, and the circumstances. So what remains is a chopped-up paraphrase of a story he'd told on the powerful Joe Rogan Experience. Ron Van Cleef, decorated Vietnam veteran and legend in the traditional martial arts community, comes into the Semaphore offices, particularly Campbell's office, bringing in two of his acolytes, who according to McLaren look like Abercrombie and Fitch models more than martial artists, and they stand behind Ron with their arms crossed, scowling and growling as they guard this old man from, I don't know what, his feelings being hurt maybe. Ron Van Cleef is 50 years old. He's gone gray, and he'd still very much like to cross the UFC off of his bucket list, to which Campbell immediately balks, prompting growls from the boys standing over each shoulder like angel and devil. And then Ron pulls his shirt up to reveal that he's still in great shape and invites Campbell to come over and punch him in the stomach, which of course he refuses to do, prompting Abercrombie and Fitch to wail on about what an insult this was to their sensei. And then they wanted to take their shirts off. So there are 3 shirtless men in his office, and maybe, just maybe, on the perceived threat of being sexually assaulted, he agrees to let Ron Van Cleef enter the tournament on the promise of running the New York Marathon in impressive time. But I've got to tell you, I would have let that old man into the cage to get his ass kicked on the promise of just leaving my office immediately with his twinks in tow, dressed or not. And all homosexual jokes aside, he did have huge balls. He was 51 years old by the time he entered UFC 4, and he had no idea that he'd draw Hoyce, in a climate where he could have clashed with someone like Chemo. Ron Van Cleef comes to the cage, without a cane, draped in an American flag and wearing American flag trunks. He looks like an aged Apollo Creed, come out of retirement, out of the retirement home.
And the action
Hoyce
begins.
takes his time
They
with
both
the older
kick
man.
and clinch. Hoyce immediately getting the takedown into side control on the Black Dragon.
At least initially.
He's got a tight lock on his neck,
Eventually, he gets vicious, but
holding the man down,
as usual with an opponent just trying to hang on for dear life,
cooking the beans
his
as
pace
they
is
say.
so sluggish that the fight is more fun and fast forward.
Looks like he's letting Ron panic a little bit here, but his tactic to grip the gi and pull is not working. Hoyce delivers a few knees to the ribs of Ron Van Cleef. Van Cleef intelligently blocking with the leg, but Hoyce is not looking to advance, holding his position inside control. Van Cleef has stacked himself up, trying to escape, throwing some knees at Hoyce, but they're blocked by his arm. Trying to buck Hoyce off is Ron Van Cleef, expending energy. Oh, Hoyce has dropped the leg over, looking to pass. He's in mount now, a low mount on Ron Van Cleef, as he settles in, giving the beans a stir. Van Cleef with two underhooks, holding Hoyce down. Hoyce is grapevinding the legs now and knuckling the ribs of the older man. Hoyce looking to posture. He's got his palms flat on the mat, looking to his corner. Oh, knuckling the head of Ron Van Cleef. Not attempting to break the grip, just trying to sneak his arms out. Van Cleef is not letting him get the space to strike. He elbows the head of Ron Van Cleef. Oh, elbows the head multiple times, 4 times. Attempting to hold the old man down now, who is floundering in this mount. Hoyce with a palm strike. He's posturing up maybe for more elbows. Let's see. Oh, palm strikes to the back of Ron Van Cleef's head. 4 more palm strikes here. Van Cleef with a great grip on the gi. But Hoyce is ringing his bell from both sides. Hoyce has got the leg scraped by now, flattening Van Cleef out, looking to make more space. He could take it on here. He's looking to punch. He punches the head of Van Cleef in a 3-punch combination. Van Cleef turns. He's looking for the choke. Gracie is looking for the choke. He's got the hand under the chin. He's got it now. A few more palm strikes to open up Van Cleef's guard. Van Cleef to finish with his hand. Hoyce has got the grip on his gi now. He's applying pressure and leaning forward to finish.
Van Cleef floundering, he taps. The fight is over. The old man loses. And Hoyce is once again victorious. He looks quite fresh still. An easy match. Didn't take a single blow. Maybe that opening kick.
In the next round, Hoist would face Kempo karateka Keith Hackney, the giant killer. He had won his opening round bout in a brutal fashion, causing any man who dared to stare on unblinkingly to cringe inward in abdominal discomfort. At the time, it seemed like a vicious exploitation of the lax rule set, but as it would turn out, Keith Hackney unwittingly became an American hero by blasting the balls off his opponent until he possibly soiled himself and submitted in shame. The ball-busted bastard's name was Joe Son, the short, shirtless Korean cornerman of Chemo, who also came to the cage carrying a cross, already old hat, and, as promised in his pre-fight promo, he shows us all the spirit of Jesus Christ, in that he endures excruciating agony. Though from this interrogation audio we can deduce that he may have indeed deserved such savagery.
And you said that you were an actor. What do you do with acting?
I do comedy, play bad guys sometimes. Did you see Austin Powers?
Uh-huh.
I played a little role in part 1.
Okay. What else do you do? You just act? Is that how you make your living, just acting? And
I'm a professional fighter.
what kind of fighter?
MMA. You can find me in Wikipedia, believe it or not.
How did you do in your fighting career?
I lost all my fights. I was in UFC 4. I did Pride 2002, February and July. I lost both fights. I pro wrestled there for a little while. It was going good, but I didn't sign the contract.
Okay, Joe, let me tell you what the deal is here, okay? Young girl, 19 years old. Late at night, early morning of Christmas Eve, 24th December 1990. Driving home, she parks in the carport. 2 guys jam her in the carport. They grab her, throw her in their car, drive her some distance away.
That's bad.
It's very bad. And the DNA tells us it's you.
Wrong guy.
You recognize anybody in that? That's you, right?
That's me.
And what we did showed that to the girl who's kidnapped. She goes, 100% certain it's him. I've seen that face every night I go to bed. She said, that's the face I've seen of the guy who kidnapped me, one of the guys who kidnapped me and raped me. I mean, just that alone screws you, okay? Okay, and the DNA is saying, yes, you're the guy. No doubt about it. And you're sitting here saying, how is that going to fly, Joe?
This is scary. You know, I can't tell you something I don't know.
Well, you do know. Is it?
And you know, you say you have this evidence, you know, and it's scary.
And in case of curiosity, they did indeed have the evidence. So, little hobbitses, not nearly frightened enough. In his fight with Hoist, Hackney's frenetic footwork and propensity for power punches, combined with his absolute refusal to grapple on the mat, make for some exciting action.
Keith Hackney looking as though his hair has been the victim of the effects of a wind tunnel. Hopefully, his right hand is not broken on the brass balls of Joe Son. And the action begins. Hackney, with his bizarre footwork, comes out stalking. Hoist fists out, ready to kick into the clinch. Hackney's feinting, trying to produce a reaction, but Hoist has no settlement. Hoist stops. Hackney simply moving out of range. Hoist is looking to throw a kick, just trying to bait Hackney into a counter. Hoist shoots. Hackney sprawls. Hackney counters with 2 right hands. Hoist is coming in again. Hackney's ready to sprawl and counter. Hoist stomps in. Hackney's against the fence now, circling out. Hoist looks to attack the legs again. Oh, Hoist comes in again. Hackney sprawls and circles out to the center of the octagon. Hoist is getting frustrated. He throws a slap at Hackney. Another slap. Hackney is now taking the bait. He's keeping his distance. Hackney comes in. all of his combinations beginning with a little foot attack. Hoist attempting to bait another counter. Throwing nothing punches and little stomps. Oh, he feinted again. Now he's got the clinch and he's got Hackney pressed against the fence. He's got one wrist and an overhook. Hackney's got a leg, but that's just what Hoist is going to want here. Hackney needs to circle out, but he's stuck here. Hoist throwing some punches. Attempting to work the clinch. Hackney responds with a counter right hand, a clubbing right hand. In the back here, Hoist a knee to the body. 2 knees to the body. Hackney tries to punch. Hackney lands an uppercut and a cross and another uppercut as he's jerking Hoist around by the gi. Hoist has got him pushed up against the fence again. And the pace is slowed back down to hand fighting. Hoist lands another knee. Hackney's countering with uppercuts. Hoist is trying to knee continuously. He circles out. Hand fighting again, and Hackney is again pressed against the fence.
It's not until Hoist pulls Hackney into his guard that the competitive edge swings in his favor.
They gripped here against the fence for a long time with no action. Hoist again smothers the counter right hands. And trying to knee, that's not working. Hackney's blocking all of those. Hackney blocks many more knees and counters with an uppercut. Hoist pulls him down into the guard. Hoist has got him where he wants now. In his full guard, a high guard attacking the arms of Keith Hackney. Attempting to secure a triangle choke. With one leg over the shoulder.
And he decides to take a little vengeance before setting up the submission.
Hackney trying to punch. He's got his arm free now. Hoist traps the ankle, attempting a sweep. Hackney has another bit. Hackney's mouthpiece is hanging lazily out of his face as he drops with the right hand. The back and Hoist is clinch. And Hoist is clinched up guard. His feet are open. Oh, he's gone for the high attack now. Pinning down Hackney's shoulder. Looking for the arm. He's punching Hackney's face. Hackney attempting to defend. He needs to posture out here. His right arm is in trouble. As Hoist is punching, attempting to create some space here. Hoist starting to look a little tired. Hackney's postured up. That's not what he wants. Not in the way. He's trying to stack Hoist. He is continuously punching him in the face. His arm is still in danger. He's clubbing Hackney now. Hoist is punching again from the bottom. He's got the arm straight now as Hackney tries to attack again with the right. Hoist has got double wrist control. Hackney attempts to peel him off and attack, but he gets blasted again by Hoist's knuckles. He hides his face again in his arm, which is setting up a choke here, or an armbar. Hoist, no, is just punching. Punching the ear, drubbing, elbowing now the skull of Hackney. Hoist is punching the back of the neck with his knuckles. Now he goes for the arm. He's extended it. He's got it. He's got the arm barred. Big John has stepped in to call the fight.
Now, he may not have been Alexander Karelin, but Hoist's opponent in the finals was one of those tough heavyweight wrestlers that Art Davie had been scouting for. It was quite apparent that he'd been hot on that trail, as added to the commentating team was Jeff Blatnick, Greco-Roman gold medalist in the same 1984 games that had crowned both Schultz brothers with their own respective freestyle gold medals. His name was Dan Severn, and Jeff Blatnick knew him well because he was a 1984 Olympic alternate, and Blatnick was quite bullishly optimistic about his chances for an upset victory over the incumbent champion. He would come to be known as the Beast, and he came to the cage with a cornerman who sported a mullet and bad sweatpants, whom pro wrestling enthusiasts might recognize as Al Snow. Dan himself came to the cage in each round of the tournament in the same gray t-shirt, which grew progressively wetter each time he walked out. And he walked out with a 1,000-yard stare. In Dan Severn's own words, quote, "People think that the UFC is on everywhere, but pay-per-views were not like that in the beginning. They were only being shown in major metropolitan areas. So I was living in Coldwater, Michigan, very rural area, never heard of the Ultimate Fighting Championships. So a friend of mine out of Detroit happened to watch the first two. He recorded them on an old VHS tape and he showed it to me. And he says, 'Hey, you ought to think about doing this stuff.' And I'm watching people get soccer kicked in the face, teeth are flying out, and I'm like, these are not exactly skills I possess. But he says, 'Hey, look at this skinny little guy doing jiu-jitsu.' Of course, he was referring to Hoist Gracie. And I'd never been exposed to jiu-jitsu at that point in time, but I thought, kind of looks like wrestling to me. I figured if a man was close enough to throw down upon me, I'd either step back, get out of range, or I'd close the distance before he gets any real mustard onto it. So, that's how I heard about it. I simply filled out an application, sent it on in. Nobody ever returned my phone call. I was told that they were receiving a couple hundred applications on a daily basis. So just a couple of phone calls were made to the office to one of the owners, Art Davey. And I happened to be going out to Los Angeles on a professional wrestling card, wrestling Hawk of the Road Warriors. So Art Davey came out, watched me in my professional wrestling match, and then he conducted his personal interview afterwards. And the first thing he ever said to me was, "You do realize what we do is real, don't you?" End quote. He did, of course, realize. But despite his lack of no-holds-barred experience, he had international wrestling accolades that, as an American abroad, served his situation well. In any case, he wasn't at all nervous, with no real time to think about what he was getting himself into, with only 5 days of training, with only about 90 minutes a day, with only a professional wrestling ring to work in, and one pair of old boxing gloves his training partners would share, Shark Tank style, until they were too tired to continue. Now, up until this point, the fledgling sport had had no Dan Severns to demonstrate, had had no Jeff Blatnicks to commentate, had had no idea what amateur wrestling moves could do for a martial artist. Up until this point, it hadn't even been thought of as a martial art at all. And despite Art Davey having seen Hickson struggle with a world-class wrestler, he still didn't really get it either. What exactly can this skill set do for you? What most people don't realize is that in the world of wrestling, an athlete is learning the principles of leverage. And what exactly does that leverage equal? It equals pain. You're not out there, in Dan Severn's words, trying to tickle your opponent to put them on their back. You are imposing your will, applying mechanical leverage, and manipulating the human frame into a helpless position. That's the only way you're going to keep a man of equal weight, and presumably equal strength, pinned down like a fucking mental patient. Oh yeah, and then there's the throw. No one in the sport, not even Taylor Tooley, the original E. Honda, who had been renowned in Hawaii for slamming his street fight opponents. Street fighting is the cultural way of solving minor disputes for the native populace there. No one had yet successfully executed the significant slam. Dan's first match in the opening round,
And the action begins.
he fought into the clinch and picked his opponent up and bodily launched him through the air.
Macias attacks immediately with a low kick from the southpaw stance, attempting to attack the knee again, with an oblique kick, another low kick. Now he's back in orthodox as Dan Severn shoots for a
And a
double.
high-amplitude throw called the German suplex.
Here we have Macias sprawling, defending, attempting to attack with elbows.
or souple if you are French.
07 try to throw but lands on his back here.
Twice in a row.
Again, going for a single leg. Macias defends. Oh, a big suplex, belly-to-back suplex for Dan Severn. As Dan Severn is controlling the double underhooks, he still has the back in a standing position. Oh, another one. Another suplex to Macias's dome as he tries to rear back for an elbow. He's trying to headbutt. Macias is trying to reverse headbutt.
His initial throw was intended to be a belly-to-belly, but his grip slipped up
has the back
to his
now.
opponent's armpits,
Double wrist control,
saving him from flying
looks like
over Dan's
he's
shoulder
gonna-
like a regimental soldier and landing onto his
Half
face.
Nelson, attempting to flatten out Anthony Macias. He's got one on pin to the mat.
His grip had only slipped because the man's skin was soaked in mineral
Oh,
oil,
but Seven can't get it.
a tactic now forbidden.
Seven attempting to pry his head up. He's going for the choke now, with the forearm under Anthony Mad Dog Macias' chin. No, he can't get that
But
either.
in this carte blanche era,
Seven is all over this younger man.
greasing was permitted.
He's got the smaller man flattened out.
Laissez-faire.
A crossface on him, applying pressure to the nose. Attempting to break. No, he's going again for the choke. Just sawing his hands underneath the smaller man taps. Macias taps, and the big man, Dan the B7, is the victor.
Dan's second match was supposed to be against Steve Jenham,
A true heavyweight.
but after his opening round victory over
Dan
boxer
7,
Milton Bowen,
260
the
pounds,
first fighter to wear a full
6'2"
set of gloves and
versus
fight in them,
Marcus
looking at you,
Bossett,
Felix Mitchell.
220 pounds, 6'1".
Jenham had sustained injuries
Won the coin toss.
and was forced to withdraw himself.
Steve Jenham. How ironic.
His stormy karmic ocean set calm again
And the action begins.
as he was replaced by the alternate,
Bossett loose.
Marcus
Nice
Bossett.
footwork, bouncing around, keeping his distance from the big wrestler Dan Severn. He needs to land a good kick here to open up. Oh, and he does to the body. And he attempts another, but Severn shoots in on his leg. He's got him down now. In the side mount. Bossett attempts an inverted triangle. He's got nothing. Severn passes over the top. Severn in full mount. Severn has Bossett flattened out on his back. He's attempting to get a head and arm choke here. He does. Bossett taps immediately. The Beast again raises his hands in triumph. He's going to the finals to face the champion, Royce Gracie.
And now it was time for the main event of the evening, the tournament final, with no rounds, no judges, and in Rorion's words, no way out, but to finish or be finished. So without further ado, Royce Gracie versus the Beast, Dan Severn.
Outweighing Royce Gracie by a good 80 pounds. Royce is a fat, light heavyweight here. The old man looking on, arms draped over the cage, as his youngest son is about to face his toughest test. Dan Severn in his wrestling shoes. Royce Gracie in the gi. He's turned it on now, he looks focused. And the action begins. Royce looking to close the distance with his kicks. Severn is having none of it yet. Royce attempting to kick to the face. Severn stepping out of range. They've yet to engage. Standing in the center and feinting. Royce a couple feints, a punch and a kick. Severn is trying to pick his moment.
The tension is palpable. Severn shoots. He's got a single. He drops Royce down. He's in Royce's full guard. Royce is kicking the kidneys of Dan Severn, holding his down his head, one butterfly hook in, as Dan is just looking to pin down the arms of Royce. He'll headbutt if he can get some space. Royce rubbing the ear. Severn attempting to turn him out with no success. He's putting pressure down on Royce's head, attempting to squeeze and crush it with his chin on Royce's face, but he just repeatedly knuckles Dan in the head, attempting to separate him. He's knuckling Severn in the ribs as Severn is pressing the pressure against his eye. The big wrestler attempting to crush the small man. Royce is resisting with butterfly hooks so that he can elevate the posture of the big wrestler, prevent him from punching, which he has so far not shown a huge inclination to do. Again, he applies pressure, pressing forward, The Hoist has blocked this. Oh, a little eye gouge from Hoist. Could have been accidental. We've had 3 minutes of action here, and Dan 7 is just applying pressure. Hoist surviving. Dan 7 again with the chin attack to the temple of Hoist Gracie. Hoist able to off-balance him enough to get out of that position, and they're scrambling. Still in a full closed, tight guard of Hoist Gracie. Hoist is holding down Dan 7's head with a grip on his gi sleeve. He is not letting any space happen here. Oh goodness, a headbutt from Hoist, and not much other action. A calm look on the face of Gracie. Dan attempting a key lock, but he's not able to pin the wrist to the mat. Oh, he tries punching now. He's punching, and he's postured up. Oh, they're back down. Hoist's guard is open. The activity has slowed to a crawl, and Hoist is again using the tactic of overhooking 7's head and gripping the sleeve. He's trying an Ezekiel choke now. 7 is a little too big for this. 7 is now walking Gracie to the edge of the mat. He has his head now pinned against the fence. Hoist with monkey toe grips on the chain links. He's turned himself out now. Hoist's toes are gripping the chain links so tightly they have bent. Still trying for that Ezekiel is Hoist Gracie. 7 making some distance here. Again, just applying pressure to the face and temple of Hoist Gracie with his chin. As Hoist goes back to knuckling the ribs, knuckling the head now, knuckling the ribs again. Gracie pushing the face of Dan 7 away. 7 attempting to put that chin in the eye. Now he postures. He rains down punches. Left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. And they're back now. Hoist has broken down the posture again. 7 again putting the chin to the temple of Hoist Gracie. Hoist holding down the posture and knuckling. 7 looking to pass. His weight is too low. 7 may be looking to posture here. Hoist with the high guard, he lets it go. Punches from 7. They're not getting past the shoulder of Gracie. He's punching the body now. Out of frustration, Gracie again controlling with the toes on the fence. He turns himself out. 7 looking to pass again. No luck. 7 again attempting to pin Gracie's head against the fence. Gracie again escaping by pushing away with his toes. 7 looking to punch. So far, he has not landed a solid blow. Got a little knuckle there, I wouldn't like that. Gracie again, turning out with his feet against the cage. 7 going over the top with some punches to Hoist's ear. Hoist widening his guard now a little bit. Motivation is what we call that. Hoist with the butterfly hook controlling the elevation of Dan 7 as the Gracie family looks on just feet away. Gracie has secured what looks to be a triangle choke here out of nothing. Is it good? 7 appears to be stacking Gracie against the cage again. The legs have come open. It is not good. It's sliding down now. Gracie knuckling the head of 7 as he attempts to pry open the legs. He appears to be safe now as he has the leg off the shoulder, pinning Hoist's head against the cage. Attempting to punch again is Dan 7. As Gracie tries for an armbar, he can't get the setup here. A stacked Dan 7 has him against the cage. Attempting to punch again. Big pressure from Dan 7. Big pressure from Dan 7. A calm expression on Hoist's face as it emerges from all of the pressure. He looks to be surviving. 7 having a little more success with his knuckles now. He has Hoist's head pinned against the chain link. Nope, Hoist again has turned out with his feet. Hoist taking some deep breaths. Still just feet away from the rest of the Gracie family as they look on calmly. 7 throwing punches. Not good punches. The defense of Hoist Gracie here has just been astounding. But how can he win? Kicking the kidneys of the big man now. Attempting to prod him into action. Big pressure again from Dan 7. As he postures his weight forward, attempting to crush Hoist's head and land some punches. 2 punches to the ear. They look solid. Stacking up Hoist with all his weight on the jawbone.
So it looked as if Hoist, unable to attain a dominant position for even a single second of this fight, was screwed. It was just a matter of time. And when about that time, the first UFC 1, 2, and 3, we had a 2-hour window for pay-per-view transmission. And when Hoist fought UFC 4, Dan 7, the live event went for 2 hours and 3 minutes, which means that at 2 hours exactly the transmission was interrupted, and everybody who was at home all over the world who had paid the money to see the fight did not see the last 3 minutes of the event. Are you fucking kidding me?
Next time, on the Cage of History.
The different ownerships of the Ultimate Fighting Championships, Rorion Gracie and Art Davie, the first ownership, sold it to Bob Meyerowitz of the Semaphore Entertainment Group out of New York. And then Bob Meyerowitz owned it at the worst time because that's when you had Senator John McCain, who was rallying all of the other senators, athletic commissioners, politicians, and legislators to do away with this barbaric sport, this human cockfighting. It was referred to as a lot of different things. And poor Bob had actually went out to Las Vegas to plead with the Athletic Commission and find out what changes could be made so that it would become a more acceptable sport. And again, what you had to look at is all these boxing commissions were headed up by boxing people. And so even when this new kid on the block is coming, it was a threat to the boxing industry. So a lot of things took place that probably were unethical.
The Golden